Yes, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Welcome once more to Retro Spectrum, hosted live at twitch.tv/Ewan Spence and also up on YouTube. I don't think we have enough subscribers yet to get the Retro Spectrum or Retro ZX Spectrum name for the channel in the URL, so just follow the links in the chats and such like, or give me a nudge, twitter.com/Ewan, easy enough to find me. On with another Spectrum game, and it's a more historical one. I don't know how famous this one is. It did a lot of the rounds very early on in the Spectrum's life when you look back at the magazines. But it's not one that seems to have a huge memory. That said, when I posted up the Goblet Ghost, we had the guys from EA in the UK going, "That's my first ever game as well." So who knows? Indeed, it is the Pyramid for the 48K Spectrum. So unlike Goblet Ghost, this uses up all the space of the game. Written by Bob Hamilton, with the curious notes of with Darren and Ian Hamilton. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess Bob was the dad and he had his two sons help him do the graphics. Described as a simple, fun arcade game with largely amusing aliens. It is a straightforward flip screen shooter. Simple as that. But it's also a game that has a huge amount of story behind it. It's delightful piece of fan fiction to Douglas Adams and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's got some amazing graphics. We are talking about 1983 here. So the Spectrum's been out for at, at least 5 months, possibly up to 15, depending on the timing. So somebody's got a hold of the Spectrum, had a play around, possibly worked with the ZX18, the ZX81 beforehand, as well as with many of these early things. Bedroom coders, that was the coding scene back in those early runs of the 80s. So let's call up get the game running on that one as well, because there's some fun stuff. Yep, there we go. Hello. There's a delightful thing that I like when I load up the game here. So we'll start with that one as well. Let's just bring that up. We're not doing this on tape, but thankfully the loading screen redraws itself when the game loads, so you get to see the pretty effects. So I think it's a demo effect that they programmed here. So we'll just go to full screen for this one. Watch carefully as we load up the pyramid, and we get how Spectrum chills memory is that drawing thing there. What actually happened is it loaded a small program in to draw that. You had a small program that loaded that drew that screen in. Then it loaded up the game, so you had more effect to look at as you're going through the 2 to 3 minute odd loading time. Now we then come up with the fun, exciting stuff of your details and the classic choose your control system. Now you get one go at this. You can't get back to the screen. So if you choose the wrong control system, you gotta load the game again. What it doesn't have is PS4 controller, but as we've spoken forward, PS4 controller through the delights of the Spectaculator emulator is now emulating a Kempson joystick. So that is number 2. And we get taken to the pyramid. Okay, this is looking quite bright and colourful so far. This is looking very Spectrum-y. I mean, I can look at that and go, I know exactly what's going on here. You're about to enter chamber 1. So you have, of course, all the pyramid. I think it works out at 75 in terms of the number of chambers that you have in the pyramids. You're entering level 1. There's 15 levels to the pyramid. Level 1 has 1 chamber. Level 2 has 2. And during the screen, you get to choose which is the next chamber you enter. Either one to the below left or to the below right. And you'll see how we choose that when we start playing the game. Now the controls, left, right, up, down, fire. That's it. Current score and highest score are kept, but there are some tweaks and interesting sections to the reason. So we're going to just jump into this, play our first level. We'll play it full screen just so you get a feel what's going on, and then we'll come back to me on that one. Welcome as we enter chamber 1, level 1 of the pyramid. Here we are, Ziggy in his little circle thing. We have some Daleks. Floating dustbins. They're not really Daleks. He's thinking it though. He's thinking it. And yeah, we came in from the top with 2 doors. You can see they've now got sort of white dots underneath them. And underneath, you've got the... I'm going to let that blue crystal go, so I've got more time to explain the game to you. Normally, I would have taken that there if it's in a normal game. You shoot the levels, and you have a target, an aim. At 6, you see it carry down. 5 on the bottom left of the screen. 4, and carry on 3, and then 2. And then when it happens, a crystal drops. Now, the crystal has 3 stages. It is white, which means it kills everything it touches. Yellow means it only hurts you, but it can be destroyed if it touches the creatures. And if it's blue, you can pick it up yourself without any damage. Now, the idea then is to fly over either of the exits on the left or the right at the bottom of the screen. The crystal will fall into it, and that will unlock the door. There we go. So if we just fly up, there we go, drop it over. We now have an exit out of the first chamber of the pyramid. And we are now, you see there? It's showing us our path as we go through the pyramid. We're now entering chamber 3, which is on level 2, so you can guess it goes 1, 2, 3, all the way down. Fire to play. But also there, notice on the side, key 1. Each chamber has a secret code attached to it, like those doors in the cube. And if you write them down, a puzzle will appear. And the aim of that puzzle, I'll tell you after we've done chamber 2. Oh, how exciting is that? So, chamber 2. And it's not dustbins in this one. It is spinny Christmas stars going in a different direction. Not a problem. Let's take that out. Of course, it does mean that when your crystal falls, it's got creatures going towards it, so we need to just be a little bit more careful. We're going to go this way because we're going to stay close to the center for reasons that we'll explain in a second. And really, you've now got a handle of the game. The only thing you'll notice, of course, is we dropped that crystal into the door, and it didn't immediately take the crystal out, open the door. And that's because some of these levels, some of these doors need more than one crystal. Now, if you had a proper ZX spectrum, you'd realise that it's just working along the colours at the top of the spectrum. So it goes from green to purple and then to off. And before that, and for those of you who really want to know, I think it's white, then yellow, then green, then purple, then off. And that takes you through. Obviously, difficulty gets harder as you go down the pyramid. Chamber 3 is key 3. It's not that it's not that obvious, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It does go there. It starts to get a little bit more complicated. The aim of the game is to ultimately is to get to the bottom of the pyramid. The aim of the puzzle is to realize that you don't know what the number of that central pyramid's final chamber is, the one that's on the bottom level directly below the top. You don't know what that number is. You can infer it by working out the puzzle of everything else around it. And this was the sort of how to keep you engaged in the game. You played through this basic arcade game, but you wrote down all the numbers, you did a bit of mapping, and at the end of it, you would be able to work out what that final chamber was. And I suspect there may well have been a prize or something. I also suspect I know what the answer is, even though I've never got there or worked it out or even looked it up on the internet, because I don't want to spoil it. Anyway, let's go into chamber 5 on level 3 and carry on. We'll find a hopefully different way of moving around. Yep, it's the smiley faces of doom going left and right. To be fair, the left and right ones I think are kind of the easiest ones, because you can leave the top 2 levels because your diamond's going to be white and it'll kill anything. And not fracture itself, because when it goes to yellow, it damages a creature, but that creature, as you saw earlier, will destroy the crystal, so you can't capture it. So really, you've only got to worry about this sort of middle zone of crystals, and then you could easily pick one up. And as long as you don't do anything stupid like that, then you're going to get it working through. So let's just take another one down. Let's keep the travel clear around it. There we go. Yeah, the great thing about Twitch is, and recording your streams, is when you say something's easy, you can be guaranteed that everything shows up that it's not easy. 9-year-old me would be mortified at that. Right. So, why do you think you know what this number is? What's going on? Why is there a little bit of Douglas Adams going in about this game? Well, this is a huge piece of fan fiction to The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because Ziggy is an intrepid explorer who's trying to understand the mysteries of life, the universe, and everything. And he's been told by ancient scrolls that inside the pyramid is the answer to life, the universe, and everything. You'll see here that this is now a mystery chamber, so it's not going to give me that clue. Don't like you. Anyway, I'm just going to lean over now. Let me just lean over. Where are we? It's 60 aliens, 70 for all the chambers of the pyramid. At the age of 218, Ziggy obtained his cosmonaut's license and was free to fly the universe on his great mission to search for clues back in history. And these 200 years of adolescence was spent plugged into the memory banks at the office of the Encyclopedia Galactica. Hitchhiker's Clue. The game The Pyramid, created independently by 15,217 software houses, became an all-time bestseller, banned from resale, and then you find yourself traveling through the pyramid to try and find the relationship of all the numbers, and then the secret number in the central chamber at the base of the pyramid. It never actually says Douglas Adams, but you know where it's going, which means I have a pretty good idea what I think the secret number is going to be in the middle of the bottom chamber of the pyramid if I ever worked it out. It's going to be 42, isn't it? Look, this really engaged me when I was 9 because I discovered Hitchhikers. The audiobook version actually of Hitchhikers, not the radio, the TV series. The audiobook for me came first. So you had this exciting, big stage world building cassette inlay story. And then you had this arcade game. And, when you look at some of the stuff that came out for the Spectrum in the early days, this was really well done. Yep, it's still using the Spectrum ASCII characters and graphics and everything. It still looks like a Spectrum game. But technologically, this had a lot going for it. First of all, look how smooth this is. Okay, this is when you would advertise your game by saying, I used machine code. So it's incredibly smooth. It's got the animated characters. Okay, there's not a lot of frames of action between these characters and the monsters, but they are there. And it just gives this sense of life and movement to it. And yep, it's pre-programmed move it, so it's just a couple of loops that are increasing or decreasing X and Y coordinates as required. There's only ever 6 sprites on the screen. They're not even sprites because it's a Spectrum. You don't do sprites. You don't have sprite control in that one. You've got the bright colours that you have in the Spectrum. You do get colour clash coming in occasionally, but it doesn't really matter. And yep, okay, I'm on an emulator. I could be juicing the speed here. I'm not. This is how fast it went on the 48K Spectrum. This is a good speed real time thing. This is what you got. You had this and New Generation's not in 3D. I must bring that up. I'll add that to my list maybe for next month. Those were the games that just showed you speed, that showed you colors and amazing. And the Pyramid is a game that I keep coming back to because, yeah, it is an arcade shooter. It's actually easier on a PS4 controller than it is in the old QuickShot 2. But it is just so smooth and yeah, buttery smooth, I think is how we describe it in UIs. Here we've got effectively this same level again. We've got critters going up and critters going down. But these manic stapler removers, you had that same sort of sense for them as the sort of sense that you got of actual bad guys from Jet Set Willy and Manic Miner and all of that. So it felt like a Spectrum game. It looked like a Spectrum game. It was arcade smooth. People go, it's a home computer. It can't do what you could do on your big arcade machines. And then I looked at the Pyramid and thought, oh, yes, it can. It can do that quite happily. And oh, I love that one. Look at that. I was about to say that diamond's protected from anything going next to it, but we are into again, pixel perfect collision detection and 256 by 192 pixels. So there we go. Ah, still haven't got it, and I'm down to 28 power. So you might actually, I wonder if these are going slightly faster than the previous level, or I wonder if I'm just not focused enough. I'm going to guess the answer is I'm not focused enough. I still haven't managed to get one through there. It's ridiculous. Okay, right. I'm going to stop blabbering for a second. No, I'm not. I'm dead. There we go. Look at that death effect. Look at that. Ah, that's fantastic. That's the pyramid. It's basic arcade fun. It's well-programmed arcade fun. It's got a lovely overarching story on it. It allows you, not just with your high score, but with a high score code you could send away to prove you had the score. You had this puzzle that went in around the pyramid itself as well. You just... You, this is just a good game. Uh, it's all there. It all held together. It's one of the early Spectrum games that again has stayed with me for a long time. It works. It's good. It's there. It's got lots of disparate elements built around a simple premise, and modern games can learn a lot from that. Just take what you've got, work with it, do it well, get it out there, get it published, and Bob Hamilton, and presumably Darren and Ian, if you ever go searching for the game, hi, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Ewan Spence. You've been watching on YouTube and you've been watching on Twitch. The Retro Spectrum look back at some of the historic games in the Spectrum, be them personal highlights or the classics and so on. Comments are always welcome on all the videos. You can subscribe at YouTube with the subscribe button and hit the alerts if you really want to. You can get in touch with me, leave comments, suggestions for games to look at as well. I'm got a couple on my list that are looking forward to look at over the next couple of weeks with you. But for now, that was The Pyramid from Fantasy Software 1983. I'm going to go away from the keyboard and I'll see you again very, very soon. Ta-ra for now.